private apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, the fresh water system and public health. What have the Romans ever done for us?
So I'm back with another tutorial request, this time from Stealth for Health. So he sent me a message. He's working on a game mod and set in the late Roman Empire, and he's looking for me to model a helmet. Yes, lo and behold, another helmet in what's becoming a theme. Now he doesn't have access to Zbrush, so he's using 3dsMax, so I'm going to do it in 3dsMax, even though the Norman helmet techniques, pretty much transfer across to, any other helmet. The primary rules when creating helmets: have a head to build on, or use as a template to build around, and also start with a hemisphere. So you might be asking, why another helmet? And to be honest, Stealth for Health has really pulled on me heartstrings here in this one, because I'm a bit of a Roman history fanatic. Now this is late Roman Empire, and I'm more of a late Roman Republic geek, but that's the reason why. So let's get modeling. Before I model anything, I'll just take a quick look at the reference here. Before I model anything, I always break it down into, I'll have a look at it for a while and study it and try and come up with, break down the basic forms, and then decide on what modeling methods I want to use for each part, and what's going to be the easiest, most efficient way with the tools I know. So the more tools you know, the more workflows you kind of know, and obviously the more flexible you can be when you're building anything. So in this case, I'm going to start, as I said, with a sphere, and because we have this circular cutout here, you think ahead and say, okay, let's create the sphere so that the pole is going to be this section here, so I can delete all those tries and have a decent enough topology to start with. So I'll go into left view, Z to zoom up, and sphere, and I'll just drag out a sphere roughly the size of the bloke's head. We can sort this out later on. Into the front view, then F3, and I'll just scale it down to a reasonable shape, and maybe scale it a bit from the top, keep it quite spherical. Back to the left view again, and I'm going to scale it this way then as well. You can always adjust this later on using FFD or whatever, because this is Stealth for Health wants it done in 3dsMax, because he doesn't have access to Zbrush. I'll have to stay here, but these days this would be getting done in Zbrush for me. So I'll just delete the bottom half that we do not need, and if you want to convert the selection, you can select the vert or any sub-object, and then control click on the other ones to convert the selection across. So I'll just delete that to the front view, and delete that half, and add a symmetry modifier. And before I do that, I scale it, so I want to just add an X form and reset the X form, collapse it, and then we add the symmetry mod. It's going to be across X. So if you do any rotation or scale translations on your object rather than at sub-object level, if you do it at object level, the pivot's going to kind of get messed up. So you want to just every now and again collapse, reset the X form, collapse back in the stack. So I'll just flip that and zero it out and click one up. That's what I usually do. It's my usual habit. Right, so back to the left, and I can hide this head now for the moment. We don't really need it, so I'll just isolate the selection. And I'm going to start off here with this band that goes around this piece here, and then around the front. So we'll just have to rearrange some of the topology. So I'm going to make this. I want to make this hole bigger than it is. So I'll just select this edge loop and just scale it up with edge constraint on, and just make it it's kind of bigger than it is, and just scale it up that way a little bit. And then from the side view we can see it still looks alright. You know, check around the views, even though I'm working orthographically here. Don't forget to keep you know, tumbling around your views to make sure everything's looking good from all angles. And I'll just adjust some of this just to bring that curve back again. And now, as I said, we'll rearrange some of this topology. So I'll just grab these verts and rotate them till they're flat, and then just move them down. Edge constraints is still on, and let's see, we want to kind of just match this, the thickness of this up here, so maybe a bit more, and straighten that one up, and that's pretty good. So if you go into edge mode and just double click that edge loop and set flow, just to kind of bring it back in and maintain this curvature here. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be good enough. And you can just tweak that again. This is why you get so used to modeling in Zbrush that you rarely have to do this kind of vert level tweaking. Right, so with that in place there now, I'm going to select this this edge loop here. And one thing we could probably do there is just to maintain a continuous loop here. When I add in these edge loops I'll show you, but for the moment, if you just can click on a face and then shift click, grab the loop, and then control click to add to the selection, and then shift click again, and you can see here it's not quite parallel, but it doesn't really look parallel either on the ref, and obviously it's something that was made, even though the Romans were incredible engineers, and they made some good shit. You know, it's not going to be perfect. Some blacksmith bloke made it probably with a hangover or something, so it's not going to be machine perfect. So I'll just open the extrude dialog, local normal, right click to zero it out, and then just decide on what height we want that extrusion to be. And if I just go into the front view, it's local normal, so I'm going to just pull that down. Sorry, I'm just going to oops, back to face. I never accepted that extrude, so that's too much, so I'll just come in maybe, or out that much maybe, and that is good enough. And back to the front, and you can see here I just want to take this edge loop and just pull it down just to kind of flatten it out, so it's not sticking out like this. And with that done, I'll create this edge loop here, so grab the swift loop tool, and the edge loop here is going to be for the indentation that's just above this part here. So a handy trick for this, when doing sub-D modeling, I always use a rule of 3 inline edges. So the control edges or support loops, if you have 3 of them, so you know, say for instance if I turbo smooth this now, it's going to just blob out. So but I want to put an inline edge here and here, so that'll be 3 edges controlling these 2 surfaces and tightening up the curve. So I'm just going to swift loop this, and I'll show you now what I mean. So we'll add in that there, and to vertex mode, target weld, and I'll just weld them together. Edge, double click on these 2 and control backspace to remove those redundant edges, and now we have an edge loop here. So you can see if I grab the swift loop tool, before it would have just continued this way or across this way, but now it's actually a continuous loop. So that's a simple way to kind of control that topology. And before I add that in, I'll just jump back to the left view again. What I want to do is do the same here again with this, just straighten this up. So we'll grab these verts, and you can scale them down or rotate them, whichever. You can just scale them till they're flat and move them down. Looks like I'll have to rotate them a slight bit, and then just whoa, my mouse is a bit ropey. Yeah, just move them down till they're about that size, and then I'm just going to turn off edge constraints and just sort of parallelize these two edges, and that's that in place. And actually I might no, we should be alright there. It should be okay. I'll probably have to adjust some of these verts here when I move down the edges. So I'll turn edge constraints on again, and I can just I can turn it. I don't actually need edge constraints on. Better with it off for this case, and just sort of eyeball them, line them up just so that's not sticking up like that. And then lastly just move that one back a bit, and maybe do the same on the back. Oh, I do not miss this vert tweaking. And probably this one here lastly. Being a bit too finicky. You know, all this stuff you can spend as much time as you like on this. I probably shouldn't be wasting time doing things like that when people are falling asleep. So just a little bit of adjusting. I would actually like to take these back up. Sorry, I'll just grab these again and maybe just move them up slightly to give me a bit more space there, and then swift loop. And this is the trick I was talking about a couple of minutes ago that I like to use. So if you select that loop there that we've just added, and then come down to chamfer, open the dialog, right click to zero it out, set it to 2 segments, and then open it up, and then double click this new edge in the middle, or the old edge in the middle as it were, and then use the extrude dialog. Same again, right click to zero them out, and set your base width, and then bring a negative extrusion on here. You can see what I'm talking about. If I just we're going to have 3 edges, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, so that's going to tighten up those edges when we subdivide. And I'll just bring that down a couple of clicks, and I'll just test that out really quickly by adding a turbo smooth, 2 iterations, eyes align display. And don't mind about this, we'll be tightening that up. It's more about getting this seam in here, and don't worry about this either. That's from the symmetry where I extruded. I have to delete those interfaces. So that is our seam line. We can just turn off that turbo smooth. F4 edge faces. I'll do that now. Actually, I'll just select that face, delete it, and make sure that these verts are zeroed out in X for our symmetry modifier. So I'll turn on the turbo smooth, and you can see now that that seam is fixed. And now we don't need to do this at the back. What we can do here is just add on. I'll just come down to the base left, and same again. I'm just going to delete these, turn off that turbo smooth, and add another symmetry. And this is going to be in Y and flipped, and right click to zero and click up once, and just make sure that that's okay, which it is. And that's pretty much the base shape created. So now you can come in and add in your loops, or you can also add these in an edit poly so you can take them off later on, but I rarely work with edit poly modifiers. The hotkey business annoys me. There's ways around it with scripts and things, but I'm just so used to not using it that I don't. So quick way to add in these edge loops, swift loop, its namesake, and just add some more in here, and maybe down here, and then rule of 3 again as I was talking about, and show end result. And that looks not too shabby. So yeah, there's the basic shape laid in. Actually, I just realized that it isn't. So what I forgot to do there was add in this part here. So if I turn off end result, you see now that I should have extruded all this out together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo back and extrude this part out with this, and then repeat the exact same steps, but I'm not going to do it in the video because even more people will be asleep. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Right, so excuse me, back again, and that didn't take long, but as I was saying, you could put that information into an poly modifier and then you wouldn't have had to undo. So I just pretty much just went back to the stage we were at with the symmetry mods, and this part added in, and all the control edges added in here, and you could probably just add another one in here to tighten that up with 3 edges, as I was saying before, and also you know, added one in here. And it's always when you're subdivision modeling, whenever you can, you've tight corners like this, you don't want to leave the edges bunched up here. It'll create creases, so you want to just you know, space them out so that yeah, the continuity of the surface isn't too crazy. Here's a good example of it here, where I've just added that loop in there. So if I come back down, you can see here, because this is a curve and these extra edge loops have flattened it out. So you know, what you can do there is just straighten them out. So I'll take off edge constraints to try and get that curve back. So V, hotkey for your views, and then Z to zoom in. And that is the back. Sorry, I wanted to go to the bottom, just so I'll just straighten these ones out here. And then another handy trick is you can just tumble the viewport around, grab these, and then grab these and then shift Z, and that's gonna undo your last viewport change. So I'm gonna put edge constraints back on, move them out, and shift Z again, turn off edge constraints, and I'll just try and get that curve where I want it. As I said, I wasn't going to be doing all this tweaking, but if I turn on edge constraints here, this is just kind of a necessary evil with sub-D modeling, especially on curved surfaces. Well, particularly on curved surfaces, you just have to try and spread out your topology like that to avoid that creasing I was talking about. See, it's kind of flattened it out, and we have a weird bit here which you can always spot when you know, put a turbo smooth on, and you'll also see it in your when you put isoline display on, you get a good idea of the edge flow there, and that there's something wrong. And that seems to be tucking in behind there. I just want to make sure that there's no weirdy bits. I'm just going to grab the see, when I double click that there, I know there's something wrong because that should be an edge loop there. So when I double clicked it, it should have selected all this, but it hasn't. So that means that there's a problem here somewhere. So I'm just looking for dodgy topology. So what I can do there is, instead of just fiddling around, I'm just going to get rid of them and swift loop, and I'll just add that back in there, and then select these two verts and connect them, and I'll try again, and there's still something going on, and that's what the problem is we have a bit of craziness going on here. Just a face that I didn't delete. It's a double, like a coplanar face, and that's what was causing that issue. And it looks like still something weird going on. So right, I just paused it really quickly, and there wasn't actually anything wrong with the geometry, so to speak. Verts are welded and all the rest. What I did was I just grabbed these two faces, deleted them and re-bridged them, and now we can see when I double click this edge loop it continues through, and our topology looks good. So sometimes you get those weird sort of topological errors. You just have to learn to kind of deal with them, try a few different things, and in that case nothing obvious was happening, so I just deleted the geometry, the offending geometry, and just rebuilt it, sorted the problem out. So yeah, that's pretty much the base part completed. And next we'll do this crest. So for the crest, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clone this object. Doesn't matter what you call it. We're going to be deleting it now in a second, and just delete those mods. Sorry, not the symmetries. You want to collapse them, and then I'm going to select these edges where we want our crest to be. So that's the front. So judging by the reference, I'm just going to kind of guess it here, eyeball it, and we'll say the crest kind of is about that size, by the looks of it anyway. And I'm just going to select those edges on the clone, create shape from selection linear, and then it kind of gives us instant crest base topology. And then we can just delete that clone, grab this, and let's see, I'm just going to move it sort of, or what I might do actually is I'll just convert it first of all to an editable poly, and because it was a spline, you always get these capped ends on one end as two triangles, so you can just delete them. And also actually might as well just delete these as well, we won't need them, and grab these two edges and just bridge them. Left view again, and just get rid of that dude's head, selection, and I'm going to sorry, I'm just going to grab these verts, F3, and put edge constraints on again and just bring them up. Yeah, it doesn't really matter actually, because there's going to be a good bit of adjusting to be done. And I'm just going to line them up here with the underlying topology, which is always a good idea because it's going to maintain that curvature if your edge loops are matched up. That should do for the moment. There'll be more tweaking to be done. I'm just kind of guessing this crest. I'm not too sure of no side refs around that I can trace out, so I'm just gonna try and eyeball it, really is all I can do. And as I say, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time, because it's more about just showing the process rather than looking at me tweaking these verts for hours on end. So get rid of that horrible grid, F3, and I'll just scale this in a bit thinner, and I'll just add a loop in the middle here. And now I'm going to add some control edges again, because I'm so used to to work in ZBrush now. I really miss being able to just grab the snake hook brush and move topology around, or move any of the movement brushes, even the transpose line. So it's nice to be able to just apply that turbo smooth. It's nice to be able to do that in ZBrush. So we can use this in the freeform modeling tools, this shift brush, the same way. I just want to turn on isoline. Yeah, we can use the shift brush kind of in the same way, rather than tweaking the verts. It's like a nice kind of a giant sort of a fall off, and I'm not going to be, as I say, crazy fussy with this for the sake of the tutorial. You know, we call that good enough. You get the idea how to build it. You can sweeten up all you like there yourself. Stealth for health. And one little trick here that I've always kind of used with when I'm sub modeling and attaching parts here. You can see here the harsh kind of line here. Well, rather than building this all in one piece, which can always be a bit of a nightmare, and generally I wouldn't advise building anything all in one piece, particularly subdivision surfaces. Build them as they'd be built in the real world. You know, so let's say for instance this might be some sort of rudimentary soldering or whatever techniques the Romans were using by that time. What you can do is, for any piece that you want to make it look kind of as if it has a nice blend, back to the modeling tools, and I'll just add a loop here, and then if we grab this border at the bottom and just scale it out, and then grab these couple of verts here in the front and go back to the left view and just pull them out as well, so you're kind of flaring the end out, and also, you know, penetrating the surface there slightly. And we'll do the same here, bring that down and flare the end out, and now you can see that, you know, we get a much nicer transition here. It looks more blended. That piece there obviously has to be sorted, so you can just grab the go back in here and grab that freeform brush again and turn on wireframe and just you know, just sink it slightly into the surface here. It's not going to matter. You're going to be baking this to a game model anyway. So yeah, so there we go. So that's the main part of that, the helmet and the crest done. And next I'm going to do the back parts, the leather kind of guards at the back of the neck and over the ears.